Well, good morning, everybody. I want to thank you all for being here, of course. Today, I am joined by our Chancellor, who will be involved with me in making some major announcements that are related to our continuing efforts to improve the quality of education for our students here in the city. I think our Deputy Mayor will be joining us. Oh, yeah, he will be joining us. Sorry, Deshaun. Our Deputy Mayor, who also brings not only the breadth but the understanding of what his unique role is, and that is really to look broadly at public education here in the city. And I think has been doing a terrific job at that. So, Deshaun, thank you. At my One City Summit a couple of months ago, the participants there, as you probably know, identified the lack of quality public education as a top challenge to creating one city. And during that State of the District address, which again was on February 7th, I cited the progress and the dramatic change that we know is underway in our city. But I also noted that when it comes to education reform, we also need to think bigger and better, and that's what we're about to talk about today. I asked Chancellor Henderson during that time, and we, for those of you who don't know, we meet every week, our education team with the Deputy Mayor. I asked her to work on building on those successes, to redouble our efforts, and to take whatever steps were necessary to accelerate improvement, to raise graduation rates, and to help more students move beyond mere proficiency to advanced levels of achievement. So today, I'm delighted to announce, with the Chancellor, of course, that DCPS is launching a new 5-year strategic plan called a capital commitment. The plan provides a roadmap for building the system into a high-quality, vibrant school district that can earn the confidence of our entire community here in the city. The plan defines a clear purpose as well as 5 goals that the Chancellor will provide more detail on that specify what DCPS expects to accomplish over the next 5 years. The Chancellor will give more details in just a few minutes, but the goals involve dramatically increasing student achievement, improving graduation rates, increasing enrollment, and also substantially elevating what we refer to as student satisfaction. Based on the hopes and dreams of DCPS stakeholders, these goals will help the DC public schools to purposefully align their resources around a specific set of ambitions, to be deliberate and transparent with families and community members about what they seek to accomplish, and to more accurately measure their success. By achieving the goals outlined in the plan, DCPS will ensure that schools will look very different by 2017. And I think for those of you who choose to look in an overarching way, if you look at our budget this year, and the Chancellor will talk about specifically the DCPS budget, but go look at the capital budget and the investments that we're making. Over this 6-year plan, we will have completed the modernization of the high schools. We will have made huge investments in middle schools and elementary schools, and in particular focusing on increasing our capacity in the middle schools where we have seen the loss of students over time. We will have, I think, 2 middle schools as a result in Ward 5, right, Chancellor, where we have none at this stage. Also, we will continue to invest heavily in early childhood education, and we know that those investments now will start to pay off in the years ahead as kids start to move through, as they move from pre-K into kindergarten, first grade, the elementary grades through middle school. Those students will be far more able to be able to compete than they have been heretofore. I don't know how many of you saw the NIERR report that was released just a few days ago. But in that report, it said that the district is not only a leader, it is the leader in early childhood education. New Jersey was cited as having spent substantial sums of money as well, but we were cited as the leader, and we're going to continue to be the leader. We now are focusing heavily on investments in infants and toddlers with this budget, with the opening of Educare that will occur probably, in fact, not probably, will occur within the next 45 days. Right, Ms. Douglas? Right out there in Parkside. We were out there on Friday. Now, as a part of this plan, DCPS has established Proving What's Possible grants, which is a $10 million initiative designed to ensure that principals have dedicated funding and resources they need to execute innovative ideas. The new programs otherwise could not be supported through the regular school budget allocation, and that's why this program is being established by the DCPS. The goal of this initiative, which again will be managed by DCPS, is to dramatically improve student outcomes across the entire city. All schools are eligible to apply for one of two types of Proving What's Possible grants. Major grants are in the range of $250,000 to $400,000, and targeted grants of $50,000 to $100,000 will be available to schools with the most compelling plans. I look forward to seeing the new ideas that principals come up with to meet the specific needs of their students. And once again, this is an effort to empower people who are at the first level. Principals who run their schools obviously have ideas, and to try to provide them with the resources to be able to implement those ideas. The $10 million fund will provide opportunities for school leaders to implement some of the best practices that we see in successful schools and districts, not only here, but elsewhere, and to move students toward a higher level of achievement and proficiency. I'm also especially excited that the Proving What's Possible grant funds will allow the D.C. Public Schools to experiment with something that is very important to me, and that is looking now at extended day. Many of you heard me talk about or raise the question of why ever there was established a 3 o'clock threshold for kids. It's convenient to no one. As a matter of fact, what it has spawned is an entire industry of after-school programs. Well, how about make the after-school programs the in-school programs and start to think in terms of kids being in school until 4:30 or 5 o'clock during the day, which I think will redound to everybody's benefit. Obviously the children, and it also will be, I think, a benefit to our parents, who very few of them get off at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they have to find options for their kids to make sure that they're safe. The other area that we're looking at, of course, is extended school year. And that is, I think this is an agrarian concept, that kids got out of school in June and they went back, used to be back in September, so that they could work on the farms during that summer period. Well, I know we have a couple of urban farms, right, Alan, in the city, but actually it is not a huge part of our economy at this stage. So we're starting to rethink concepts that have become truisms that really need to be rethought, revisited, and changed in many instances. In any event, with this fund, the schools will have an opportunity to direct resources exactly where they believe they will have the greatest impact. And we're hoping, right, Chancellor, that the greatest impact will be in the lowest performing schools. Therefore, 80% of these grant funds will be focused on the DCPS's 40 lowest performing schools. Our administration is committed to investing in the schools where the children need the most help to be able to succeed. That's one of the reasons, again, not to be redundant, that we're investing so heavily in early childhood education, because while every child will benefit, those children that will benefit most are those children who are in the most socially and economically challenging circumstances, and unfortunately are disadvantaged substantially by the time they get to school. This would include, of course, a large population of low-income and special needs students, as well as English language learners who require a range of services and targeted resources to excel. Much of the work at DCPS is being reorganized to provide more resources and targeted resources to these schools and school officials. For example, DCPS is working with the Health and Human Services agencies, specifically Deputy Mayor Wright is working directly with Deputy Mayor Otero and working with the Chancellor, of course, to be able to bring to bear more efforts from our various Health and Human Services agencies, the Department of Health, Healthcare Finance, DYRS, the Child and Family Services Agency, all of those that, in fact, in many instances are working with precisely the same children. We're reorganizing DCPS recruitment and provide specialized staffing support in these schools in particular. And we're refocusing community-based partnerships to specifically address the special needs of students in low-performing schools. DCPS has been steadfast over the last several years in working to improve teacher quality across all of our public school classrooms. And the Chancellor and I both agree that collectively, with teachers and parents and community partners and other stakeholders, we've made strides in laying the foundation for dramatic growth and improvement in our schools. But the reality is more innovation and continuous improvement is required in order for us to be able to really take the next huge steps. We think the Proving What's Possible grants through a capital commitment, the DCPS 5-year strategic plan, and through other innovative programs and strategies. Through these programs and these efforts, we're raising the bar and giving, hopefully, parents and children hope that they will get to the next level, which we know they will. Again, there are 5 areas. The Chancellor is going to talk about those in more detail. So I'm going to ask Chancellor Henderson now if she would come up and provide more detail on this exciting effort forward. Chancellor?
Thank you, sir. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm excited today to stand before you and share with you a little bit about a capital commitment. This is our 5-year plan for DC Public Schools. We are currently in the final year of a strategic plan that we put together in 2007 under the previous administration. And as my team sat down to figure out what we wanted to set for the next 5 years, a couple of things stood out. One, over the last 5 years, we've made a lot of changes around ensuring that the appropriate operational things at DCPS happen well, ensuring that we can hire people on time, that schools are staffed on the first day of school with the highest quality people, ensuring that we could pay people on time, go figure, delivering textbooks, and just ensuring that the fundamental operations of the school district were in place. And I think we've come a very long way on that front. As we look at the next 5 years, we have a very unique opportunity to build on the successes that we've already accomplished in terms of getting to be a functioning organization and really move aggressively and urgently around making the revolution happen in the classroom, around making some promises to our stakeholders and delivering on those promises in terms of outcomes for student achievement. And that's what we set out to do in this plan. We called upon our stakeholders, the people who care about DCPS the most, parents, students, our teachers, our principals, our community members, to say, what is it that you want to see in DC Public Schools over the next 5 years? And we asked that question in the form of our Hopes and Dreams campaign, which we started on last spring and completed over the summer. And resoundingly, what the community said they wanted was a school system that provided a world-class education to their young people in school buildings that were safe and modern, that would prepare them for college, career, and life. And so literally, when you look at our purpose, that's exactly what it says. It reflects the hopes and dreams of our stakeholders to ensure that every DCPS school provides a world-class education that prepares all of our students, regardless of background or circumstance, for success in college, career, and life. And we wanted to be clear in 2 respects. We felt like we wanted to make some hardcore commitments to our stakeholders that we could be held accountable to. And we wanted to have some measurable goals that would help us understand whether or not we were delivering on that promise. And so, as you'll see on the piece behind me and in your pamphlet, we chose 6 of the most important stakeholders, 7 of the most important stakeholders, and made some commitments. If you bear with me, I just want to take a minute to share them with you because for me, they're really important. I get up every day and do this work because I believe that it's my job to deliver on these commitments. To the children of DC, we promise them that our top priority at DCPS is ensuring that they have the opportunity to attend a great school that they love and that prepares them for success in life. To DCPS teachers and staff, we promise that we will invest in their success by providing the environment, resources, and tools they need, and that we'll respect them as professionals. To our leaders, our school leaders, we also promise to respect them as professionals, to give them the support to lead, and to provide the environment, resources, and tools that they, their staff, and their students need to succeed. To parents, we promise to partner with you to ensure your child's success. To members of the DCPS community and the community at large, we promise to provide you with opportunities to contribute meaningfully to the success of our schools and our district. To potential employers who are our end users, we promise to provide them with a steady supply of well-educated young adults who will make positive contributions to the success of their organization. And to the city and state of Washington, D.C., we promise to make our school system one that all citizens are proud of. A school system that can be the anchor for thriving, productive, and growing communities. To meet these commitments, we came up with 5 goals that provide clarity of direction. They provide organizing principles around which we can do our work, and they provide a measure for everybody to hold us accountable. 5 of them. They're ambitious, but we know that we have to be aggressive and urgent if we're going to ensure that our young people are ready for college, career, and life. So the first goal is really about improving student achievement rates across the board. We're currently at about 43% proficiency in reading and math. We believe that in 5 years we can get that number to at least 70%. And we don't want to do it at the expense of our highest performing students. In fact, we want to continue to raise the floor and push the ceiling higher. So we explicitly are saying that we want to double the number of our young people who are currently performing at advanced levels. Our second goal is really around investing in our struggling schools. We have about 40 incredibly low-performing schools, and we believe that over the course of 5 years, we can improve their proficiency rates by about 40 percentage points. Currently, our lowest-performing schools are in the 22 to 23% proficiency range, yet in some schools it's as low as 12%, 10%, 9%. We have to move urgently on those young people. And we believe that by reorganizing our thinking and by providing innovation funds through the Proving What's Possible grant, that our teachers and our principals can look out at best practices like extended school day, extended school year, technology, and reorganization of staff to do some very different things. Principals tell me all the time, if I only had more money and if I could only do what I want to do. I trust our school leaders to work with our school communities to come up with good plans to do that. And we have moved money from other things that we previously have been doing to ensure that they have the opportunity to do that. We're going to provide them with the technical assistance so that they can do that well. And we are going to allow them to innovate. That's the thing that moves the needle tremendously. The third goal is around increasing the graduation rate. As you have seen through the newly calculated graduation rate, we're at about 53% of the young people who start high school in DCPS finishing within 4 years. That is absolutely unacceptable, and we believe that we need to get to at least 75% over the next 5 years. How are we going to do that? It's going to take a Herculean effort. If we tell the truth of the matter, high schools just aren't designed in ways that kids are interested in or motivated in. We haven't provided great CTE programs as deeply as we can for our young people who are not going to go to college. We haven't provided arts and technology at the high school level the way we need to and ought to. And so we want to also make sure that our young people who are going to high school are ready. Part of the reason why they're not graduating in 4 years is because we haven't ensured that when they come out of middle school that they're absolutely prepared for high school. So we are going to double down on moving the needle on our graduation rate. The fourth goal is really around improving student satisfaction. We believe that our young people should be happy to go to school every day. I know it's a little crazy, but I have two young people in my house, a 6-year-old and a 15-year-old. And let me tell you, when they are excited about something, they do well at it. We want our schools to be places where our young people feel safe, where they feel excited to go every day, where they see the reflection of our commitment to them in their school buildings, where they feel safe, where they have access to enrichment activities, after-school activities, athletics, the arts, and all kinds of things. We want our young people to like their schools because we know that that's going to be a driver of success. And then finally, we believe that we can increase our enrollment over the next 5 years. In fact, we know the mayor has thrown down the gauntlet and made a very clear charge around improving our ability to serve our young people with special needs in their home schools, not in private placements where we pay exorbitant tuitions and transportation costs, but right here in our neighborhood schools. We know that that's a key to increasing enrollment. We know that there are a number of young people who are actually outperforming even our advanced students and need more challenging opportunities. And so we're looking at gifted and talented programs to ensure that those young people are challenged, and we know that's a driver. We target recruitment in a number of our schools where great things are happening and people don't know about them. And so we will do everything that we can to ensure that we have as many young people as possible, because when we have the right number of schools, the right size schools, and the right number of students, we're just able to provide a greater breadth of educational options and greater depth in terms of the offerings. And so we believe that if we can do these 5 things in the next 5 years, that we will be probably the only school district in the urban school district in the country who has made such a radical turnaround in a short amount of time. We believe that we can do it. I think the city is aligned. I just, people ask me all the time, how's it going? You're smiling. You look okay. I have the greatest job in this city, I think, with all due respect, sir. I get to do incredibly important work that will change life outcomes for a city that I love with people that I love. I get to innovate. I have the support of the mayor, the city council, all of the elected officials, and we might fight in terms of how we get there and whether we spend $2 on the bus to get there or $1 on the bus to get there, but we're going in the right direction. We all want the same thing for our young people, and I get to help deliver that. And so for me, as I think about the next 5 years at DC Public Schools, I'm excited. We shared these goals and these commitments with our school staff and with our central office staff. And I got a barrage of emails from our staff members afterwards saying, thank you for the clarity of focus. Thank you for measurable outcomes. I feel like we are all rowing in the same direction for once. And I believe that this plan is going to be transformative for us. Hold us accountable to the commitments that we've made, but understand that these are our commitments. We have to do this together. DCPS cannot do it by ourselves. And so I look forward to holding your hands and working with you as we deliver on this capital commitment to students in the District of Columbia Public Schools. Thank you.
All right, you've heard, the best overview we can give you at this stage, and we'll be happy to take any questions that you may have. Media. Tom and Bill.
I have a question, I guess mostly for the Chancellor. You mentioned we're at the tail end of another 5-year plan and we're launching a new one. How would you gauge the success of the last plan? What have you learned from it as far as going forward into this one?
Sure. I think we are looking at all of the key performance indicators, but we've accomplished probably 90 to 95% of the things that we set out to do in the previous plan. But again, I want to stress that that plan was different in that it was really focused on getting the district to operate differently. I think we saw some some initial successes around student achievement because we've been able to take care of some of the things that we think are important to moving the needle, especially around teacher quality and school leader quality. But when I think about the academic plan that we put in place this year, that is literally changing how teachers are teaching in their classrooms. When I think about the over $1 million in books, textbooks, not textbooks, sorry, fiction and nonfiction texts that young people can read, when I look at the quality of what's happening in our classrooms versus where we were 5 years ago, A, I'm excited, but B, I think we're finally at a point where we can really ramp up what's happening in our classrooms.
Chancellor, as Tom said, this replaces a plan from before, and it had a lot of the same goals and aspirations. This one touches on that. I mean, some of those goals. But what is it you think that is your personal mark on this plan as opposed to the predecessor? How does it reflect? I know you and Chancellor are close philosophically, but how does it reflect your mark?
So I think, you know from conversations that we've had that I feel like this is not about me, right? This is about us. This is about how we are going to do this work together. I think one of the things that we did differently with this plan was before we developed a plan, we asked people what they wanted to see. And we based this plan on the hopes and dreams, the articulated things that our stakeholders said was important to them. So I think that's different. I think one of the other things that's very different about this plan is literally like we now bust every decision up against these 5 goals, right? As we looked at our budgeting process, I was able to go through line by line with each of my chiefs and say, does this help us move one of the 5 goals? If not, why are we doing it? And should we keep on doing it? And so what you'll see in our budget is really a reflection of activities that point to one of these 5 things. And I don't think that we were able to, that we used the strategic plan previously in that way.
James and then Bruce.
2 questions, Ms. Henderson. Number 1, as you are aware, in your increased graduation rates, Chairman Brown has a proposal that all students take the SAT or the ACT. Do you support that? And number 2, in some areas of the city, you have PTSA meetings where you only have, if you're lucky, 2 or 3 parents to show up, with all due respect to their work requirements and stuff. How does your plan address that?
Yep. So, sorry, tell me the first question again.
Mandatory SAT.
Yes. Okay. So we've actually built the components of the Omnibus Education Act into the plan. We will be able to test all of our young people or provide the opportunity for all of our young people to take the SAT or the ACT. We're actually partnering with a philanthropist this year in 11 of our high schools to provide SAT prep, not the SAT prep that, I guess was previously available, but retail, the kind that suburban folks pay good money for. We will actually work with 100 kids in 11 of our schools to provide that level of preparation as a pilot this year with a view to expanding it next year. We are fully behind allowing as many of our young people as possible. And in fact, I feel like we already do this, right? The PSAT is a good example. The PSAT is required at the 11th grade. We actually provide for 9th, 10th, and 11th graders to take the exam. And we pay for it and whatnot. And so I'm approaching this the same way that we've approached that. On the PTA front, I think one of the things that we've realized is how you do parent engagement has to be different, in part because not all of the vehicles that are currently in place work for parents. Not every parent can come to a parent-teacher association meeting, and sometimes, if we're honest with ourselves, not all of them are particularly well-run or well-focused and whatnot, and parents have limited amount of time. What they care about most, what I've learned, is 2 things. They want to know how they can help their individual child do better, and they want to know how they can help their child's school be as good as possible. And so we have reorganized some of our parent engagement work to focus on those two things. First, many teachers are not trained beyond the send a newsletter home every week, make positive calls before you make negative calls, in how to really engage parents, in how to actually lay down, here's what we're doing in school, here's what you could be doing at home to support. And so we've partnered with the Flamboyant Foundation, who has looked at cutting edge parent-teacher engagement techniques. They've trained a number of our teachers in a bunch of pilot schools, and then we're also doing a citywide training in May. But take Stanton Elementary, for example, where previously people would have said that nobody would come out to a PTSA meeting, and on back to school night, they had over 200 parents. Why? Because the teachers had been trained to do home visits. They went and did home visits over the summer. They have academic parent team teacher meetings where the parents come in and they sit down and deal with one or two specific skills that the young person is struggling with, and the teacher helps the parent understand what they can do to help that. Those are the kinds of different ways that we're thinking about parent engagement. Same thing in terms of helping our principals really understand what it means to create an environment where parents feel welcome, because not all of our principals know how to do that. And ensuring that there are meaningful opportunities for parents to participate, whether they come to school in the daytime, can come at night, or whatever. So we will double down on trainings to ensure that those type of meaningful engagements are in place. The other thing that I'm really excited about is now that we have an articulated curriculum, right? What I've asked my team to do is lay out a companion curriculum for our parents. If the unit is on, U.S. government, then we should have a bunch of activities that parents can do over spring break, on the weekends. We should be able to flag activities that are happening in town that speak to aspects of our curriculum. So we will, as we continue to refine our curriculum, pull together a companion piece that parents will know how they can support what's happening in their young people's schools. Sorry, that was long, but I'm a little excited about it.
Extended day and school year, is that merely a goal, or is that something you have to have?
So it is, what we know is that the highest performing schools that move student achievement with the lowest achievement student spend much more time during the school day and school year. And while we don't have the opportunity to wholesale quickly mandate that we will extend the school day and extend the school year, we felt like there were enough principals who were interested in trying a pilot if they had the appropriate funds to, again, as the mayor said, not just do after school, but really extend the school day. And so what we've asked in these Proving What's Possible grants, or what we've provided for, is the ability for, if an entire school wanted to extend their school day by an hour or two, we could actually do that. And so as I hear from principals who are putting together their grant applications, many of them are piloting extended school day. Some of them are actually looking at extended school year by bringing kids in over spring break and Christmas. So when we get those proposals, we'll have a clear idea. What this pilot will allow us to do is help us figure out if we can then move towards a more systemic adaptation of these two pieces.
I mean, why at this point, after 5 years of reform, are we merely just talking a pilot program to extend the day in the school year? When you've seen it,
I think, Bruce, you've got to demonstrate that there is evidence that this works. We also have got to work with people. We've got to work with the principals. We've got to work with the teachers to bring people along. I think it would be chaotic to just go out and say, well, 123 schools will now go to school until 5 o'clock every day. I think that's not responsible. So what we're going to focus on is working with a few schools initially. Hopefully, frankly, some of those schools, some of the lowest performing 40 schools, where we know that there's additional work that's needed, learn from that experience and then expand it once we learn from that experience. Of course, there's a cost associated with it. We've got to figure out what that is, and we'll work to make sure that we know what that is, and try to in the future budget years be able to ensure that those investments are available. Again, I don't have any doubt that this will pay for itself over time, just like I have no doubt that early childhood education will pay for itself. We're already seeing, we really, and the Chancellor alluded to it, But we made a concerted effort that after all of this years of talk, we were going to start to bring these children with disabilities home. And if you go back and look at the 13 budget, it includes $40 million of budget savings over, in fact, $50 million over the peak year when it was 160. The budget for fiscal year 13 is $109 million, and we're reinvesting those dollars back into our schools, back into the charter schools, back into DCPS, and that's exactly what we want to do. The goal of this 5-year plan, Bruce, is really to break the mold, if you will, to really do something different, to build on the foundation that's been established over the last few years, and now really, accelerate this forward. Tim?
Thinking about the school day, have you talked to the teachers unions about this? I mean, as of now, many teachers get in at 7 a.m. They'll be working an extra hour. They don't get much time for lunch.
Yep. So we actually anticipated that this was a direction that we wanted to go, and there are some flexibilities in the WTU contract that we currently have that allow us to pilot this kind of thing. The union was very helpful in recognizing that this was an opportunity not just for our young people, but for their teachers as well. I sat down with Mr. Saunders as recently as Friday, and we discussed this, and he is totally on board with us piloting this to figure out how this could work for his members.
Let's hit, why don't we go here, because you haven't had a chance, then we'll come back to you, Bill.
Two things. Do you have an estimate of how much it will cost to extend the school-day system-wide? And also, you recently said that you were interested in pursuing chartering authority for DCPS. Is that something you're still interested in, or do these grants accomplish the same goal?
Still interested in chartering authority. These grants are, I think, reflective of the fact that I believe that the charter sector is not the only place that innovation can happen. And so the reason that I'm interested in pursuing chartering authority is because I want to provide my principals with as many freedoms as possible for them to do what we've seen our high-performing charters be able to do. I just don't believe that you have to go outside of the system in order to do that. The other question was... Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. We have it. I can get it to you.
And that's probably something we better refine with the pilot effort,
yes,
right?
We will know more.
We're going to take 2 more questions. I'm going to take you first, Peter, and then we'll come back to you, Bill.
Where does school closures fit into the 5-year plan? I know the IFF study that was recently commissioned said I think it was 38 schools were possibly closed, maybe turned into charters. Where does that fit into the plan?
Well, let me start. We will be back at you in a matter of weeks to talk about the closing of schools. And I've said it at every one of these budget town hall meetings, and I hope people are listening. What we have is unsustainable. We now have 76,000 students in public education in the city. We have 77,000. We have 46,000 in D.C. public schools, 31,000 in charters. When you put all the buildings together, when you put the D.C. public school buildings together with the charters, we now have about 220 buildings. Just do the math on that. It's not sustainable. And what's interesting is that virtually every budget town hall meeting we've conducted, somebody will stand up and talk about the ancillary services that they would like to see in schools. There's no way to do that because the dollars just simply aren't there. We are going to have to consolidate the number of schools that we educate our children in the District of Columbia, and ultimately it will redound to the benefit of every child and every family in this city. People have very nostalgic, emotional ties to schools in the city. I'm a product of the D.C. public schools, and so I think fondly, too, of the schools that I went to, but I think even more fondly of what is important now, and that is, what are we going to do for the children who are yet to go through our schools and hopefully will go through our schools? So while we're not prepared today to talk precisely about how we're going to do that, it is right in the middle of the radar screen, and we'll be back in a few weeks with how we're going to accomplish that.
Can I add quickly to that?
Go ahead.
Can I just add to that? So I don't want us to think about this just in terms of school closings. I really want us to think about this in terms of right-sizing the district because, as the mayor said, we do have too many programs in too many buildings, but we also haven't changed boundaries in 30 or 40 years. We haven't looked at feeder patterns and how those actually exacerbate issues of under-enrollment that then lead us to want to close a school. We haven't looked at new programmatic priorities that we can situate inside buildings that are currently underused. And so what we want to sort of deal with the whole enchilada together. How do we create the right system of schools that are the right size so that we're able to offer a full complement of academic services across the board, that will be able to really then, when we have the right economies, we can plow our savings into things like extended school day and extended school year, because if that's where we're going to need to recoup the funds from somewhere. Right now, we're spreading our resources way too thin. And so we will be out over the late spring and throughout the summer working on a community engagement process around how we do that. That's informed by the IFF study. That's informed by some other studies that we have going on, so that we're not first tackling the IFF question, then tackling the boundary question, then feeders, then closures. It is one part and parcel, I think, of one initiative to make the right set of decisions around school size.
Are you sensitive to the concern that certain parts of the city bear the brunt of school closures more than others, where it's 5, 7, and 8, let's just say where it's 2 or 3?
Yes, I think we're absolutely sensitive to that. We also have to look at the numbers and where our young people are going to school. I think part of us building new schools in Ward 5 is because the reason why some of our other middle schools are overcrowded is because there aren't real options. So this is what I mean when I say we have to look at the whole enchilada, right? We could talk about building a new middle school in Ward 3, or we could talk about building the appropriate middle school capacity in the wards where there is none to ensure that we have the right number of students.
I think, too, if you look at the high schools, Peter, we have 3 traditional public high schools east of the river, and we've made huge investments in each of those. One, H.D. Woodson, has been completely rebuilt. A huge renovation modernization effort has been made at Anacostia that is now winding down, and we've made the commitment to completely rebuild Ballou High School. The planning is well afoot, and construction will start as soon as we possibly can. So there certainly is sensitivity to it, and the recognition that we have a very large percentage of our kids who live east of the river in the city. Bill, you're going to get the last question.
Mr. Mayor, it's been now a little over a year since Chancellor Henderson asked the Inspector General to investigate the allegations of cheating. Why is this taking so long? Are you curious as to why it's taking so long? Why does it have to take so long to do this? Other investigations of far more consequential matters have taken less time.
Well, again, the IG does these things at the IG's pace. The IG is obviously independent. We work closely with the IG. We've tried to cooperate in every possible way. And I think we actually we talked about this last week in terms of where we are with this, and I'll ask the Chancellor to share some of her, some of her findings about the quote-unquote extent of cheating.
Sure. So I met with the IG maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago now, and they indicated to me that they are wrapping up their investigation. And so while I don't have an actual time frame, that was much more information than we've previously had. So I expect that we should see some results very soon.
All right. Yeah, we're going to that next, Tim. Yeah. Thank you for following that agenda for me. What comes after that? All right, the Chancellor has her budget hearing today, so she has got to go. And again, this is an exciting time. And what I think is very exciting about this, too, is that what we have are things that are measurable. And we will certainly be measuring those. And I don't think you have any, the people who are at the helm of this have the fervor, the commitment, and not to sound saccharine or syrupy, it's in their hearts. And it starts right there with that Chancellor. Thank you, Chancellor. Just to share some information as we wind down on this piece of it, so that you all have some basis for comparison. as I indicated, we have 76,000 students and about 220 school buildings in which our students are educated. Prince George's County Schools has 198 schools, but they have 127,000 students. Montgomery County Public Schools has 200 schools, 144,000 students. Fairfax County, 194 schools, 177,600 students. And Arlington Public Schools has 37 schools and 21,000 students. So I think you can look at those ratios and walk away pretty quickly by doing the math and see that what we have is a very large number of schools for a relatively small number of students by comparison to the surrounding jurisdictions. Yes?
So if you're going to do closures in conjunction with boundary study, feeder pattern, sanitation, those things can take a year, 2 years. Does that mean closures are something?
I think we don't have a timetable yet. We'll roll that out when we get there. But I think also we have a sense of urgency about this, and that is we would rather invest these dollars in activities that will benefit the improved outcomes for our children rather than spending so much money now on what we call fixed costs, and that is running X number of buildings and having to continue to modernize buildings that may not be in the use somewhere down the line. So we don't have a timetable yet, but we also have a sense of urgency about getting to that in a responsible way. Tim?
Mr. Mayor, yesterday Kwame Brown called your communications director clueless, and he suggested that he's not going to respond to anyone like you directly. What do you think about the chairman questioning the intellectual ability of your senior staff?
Are you clueless?
My wife would agree with the chairman.
Well, there you have it.
Really, I mean, what do you think about the chairman using personal terms to describe your staff? And what is the current state of
The chairman and I have worked together since we came on this council, Tim, and we're going to continue to do that. We'll continue to work together. I think you know that we live in the same area of the city. We share some of the same values and goals and aspirations for our children, for the city. And he and I probably talk more than what you all realize. And we'll continue to do that. Alan?
He's laying blame for the supplemental vote yesterday at your staff's feet for submitting the language so late. Do you take any responsibility at all for the council deciding to go for a $15 million package instead of the larger budget?
I think it's the beginning. We got the unemployment insurance issue addressed. We got the charter schools issue addressed. There are other issues, and we'll continue to work on those. You have a question, Jay? Okay.
When are you going to put down in that new supplemental? They asked for a new supplemental. Are you going to put down a new supplemental?
I'll talk to the chairman about it, and we'll see how we'll proceed. Again, I have been the chairman of the council, and I recognize what a difficult job it is. And that's one of the things that I think is valuable in our relationship. I realize the multiple pressures and forces that impact him every day, and I'm certainly going to do everything I can to work to move us forward.
And can you explain why also to people that $20 million, which is a pretty big size of some money, that's worthy of being given back to city employees when there's not $20 million in tax cuts that can be given back to people who had to pay more taxes during the recession as well?
Well, my view was that these were people who, I'll say we asked to bite the bullet and give up 4 days. And I was among those, by the way, and I don't want my money back, even if it were approved. So let me make that clear up front. But I was the chair of the council at the time, and it was an excruciatingly painful discussion that we engaged in to try to get to what we thought was necessary to achieve a balanced budget. And I think everybody in that room, including me, really felt badly about having people to take 4 furlough days in order to balance the budget. And I think people felt, I certainly felt even more badly about it in the aftermath when it turned out that we had a surplus. So this is an effort to try to say to people, and by the way, I hear it all the time, Tim. When I go out with the employees, I was over at DPW recently and the issue was raised by, you know, some of the employees there. Listen, you know, we tried to be helpful, we tried to be cooperative, and now we find out that this wasn't even necessary. And my answer is, well, we did the best job we could based on the information that we had at the time. And I'm sympathetic to the issue.
But isn't it also, people had to make sacrifices in human services, a lot different than pay, maybe taxpayers had to make sacrifices by paying more than Ryan Fives in the last 3 or 4 years for the recession. Maybe that money should go there. I mean, you're making a blanket statement that the money is forcing employees. That should be the priority.
Well, that is, Tim, what I'm saying, Tim, is we know that money came directly back from people who otherwise would have earned it. And by the way, if you think back, it came as a result of holidays. People worked the same number of days as it turned out, so we had 4 holidays on which people were not paid for those holidays. So this is an effort to connect this directly with where we know the money came from. I'm sure there are other arguments that could be made, and I've heard some of the arguments, but mine is focused specifically on exactly where that money came from. There was identified to be a furlough, you know, in the fiscal year 11 budget that involved, I guess, at least $19 million. I've heard different numbers now, so we'll get that straight with the CFO. But mine is specifically focused on the people who were furloughed and had, you know, money taken from their salary, and at the end of the day, people can decide to do what they will.
Are you open to a compromise that some people have suggested, maybe paying back 2 furloughed?
Well, I think like anything, Alan, in this environment, you have to have conversations that go back and forth, and eventually you find a solution that people can, you know, can work with.
One other thing. Yesterday, Chairman Brown, Councilmember Henderson, and a few others complained about how some agency heads overspent their budgets, forcing the spending pressures that were being dealt with yesterday. Are you kind of going to start cracking the whip on your administration, or were their concerns overblown?
Cracking the whip? Come on, you know. Change your terminology, okay? Well, I would suggest that is hyperbole, Alan. Have you followed the spending pressures history over the last 10 years? Well, what did you conclude from that?
There are fewer of them. I'm just saying.
Well, tell me. Keep going. Keep going. There are few. No, I want you. You've seen the data, and your question, I don't think, is justified by the data. This is the lowest level of spending pressure since people started recording this data. So, to suggest that we need to crack the whip, I think these people have managed these budgets extremely well. I want to commend them.
Is that your response to the chairman's comments? The chairman criticized.
No, it's my response to your question.
Okay, what's your response to the chairman's comments?
Well, what the chairman asked me. I've already had that conversation. I sat down with the chairman and I went through a chart that showed the spending pressures over the last 10 or 12 years. You've seen it like everybody else. Nobody has refuted it. The CFO has certified that those are the accurate spending pressures. And by the way, the next lowest level of spending pressures to this current year was when? Come on, Alan. Last year. It was last year, Alan. The reality is that spending pressures are an inevitability in what is, excuse me, almost a $10 billion budget. Things happen. When you look at unemployment insurance, that could not have been anticipated. When you look at the charter schools, who could have known that they were going to serve more children with disabilities, that they were going to have more children who would sign up for summer school? DGS is a brand new agency. And frankly, we've tamped that down to $4 million. The fact of the matter is, go to the 13 budget. We've projected $10 million of savings, $10 million of savings in the DGS budget for next year. So I think when you look at the management of these agencies at this stage, I think our managers have done a terrific job in managing spending pressures, and the data support that. So I will not. I don't feel the need to crack the whip on them. Wait a minute, Miss Douglas. We'll do that afterwards. This is just for the media. I'll ask you a question. I'll answer it afterwards. Okay. Thank you all very much.